Now the method I use for shooting traditional archery is what they call the instinctive shooting method. Let me explain that a little bit if I can. You know, like if you're playing ball in the yard or pitching or throwing a football to somebody or even shooting a basketball, you're not looking at that person saying, okay, he's 10 yards away, I need to aim a little higher and throw it a little harder. No, you automatically, subconsciously, your brain figures that out and does it for you. All you're doing is looking at the target, you're looking at his mid or whatever, and you're throwing, whether he's 20 yards or 40 yards or 60 yards, you're just automatically heaving it further without even thinking about it. And that's how instinctive shooting works. When you're shooting the instinctive shooting method, it's more of a relaxed position. The English or a lot of compound shooters, you know, they're up and they're stretched out and they're shooting like this. They're locked in, everything's locked. Whereas instinctive shooting, you're more in a relaxed position. So in order to get in that relaxed, you're not really standing exactly perpendicular. You're a little bit off of it. Your back foot is just slightly back from the other one. You're about shoulder width apart, and you're not locked. Your legs are not in a locked position. They're kind of like unlocked, kind of so that your weight is transferred towards the front or the ball of your feet. So you're kind of like, you're basically going to be in a boxing stance, what it is. So get in the boxing stance, you've got your unlocked knees and you've got your weight on your toes, and if you hold up your arms in a relaxed, natural position, it's automatically going to be like this. It's not locked, it's got a little bit of a bend to it, and if you let your wrist relax and let it fall naturally, it takes a slight cant. So it's going to be canted just a little bit. Let your wrist, just let it go where it wants to go at. And that's where your arm's going to be. Other than the fact that in order to get, going to have to lock your wrist. You can't be able to move your wrist. You want to lock it down like that, so that you got a straight line from your forearm to your wrist. So you got it locked. If you allow your wrist to move, well, eventually you're going to throw your shot off a little bit. So lock your wrist, stretch your, by doing that I just kind of grab my thumb and my index finger and let my other fingers hang down, and that makes it locks the wrist. You don't want to lock the elbow, you just want to lock the wrist. The next is you're going to be pulling and you're going to find a good anchor point. For me, I'm used to shooting, I'm anchoring on the corner of my mouth with my index finger, which gives me in between here, between the index finger and my thumb, a little pocket there to hook onto my jawbone in the corner. So I lock it on there, so I bring back, lock it, hold for a little bit, and then just release your finger. So that's basically how you're going to be at. You're in a relaxed position, your knees aren't locked, you're comfortable into your on target. It's kind of like when you're sighting in a rifle. If you're sighting in on a rifle and you got the sights locked in on your target, and you close your eyes and you open your eyes and you're off the target, well, that means you got to do a little bit of adjusting. Same way with instinctive shooting or archery. You may have to adjust a little bit, find your spot where you're comfortable. Everybody's a little different, but the stance are basically the same way. Unlocked knees, weight kind of onto the ball of your feet, arms and shoulders are kind of turned in a natural position, not stretched out and locked sideways, in a natural position to your target. This automatically, with your elbow unlocked now, because whenever you're forcing something out or forcing your elbows locked, you're putting strain on that, and that strain may or may not transfer to your arrow flight. So you want to get a good relaxed position. Then when you're in that position, you're just concentrating on that target. You're picking a spot and you're not taking your eyes off that target till the arrow hits that target. Don't take your eyes off and follow the arrow flight. That's the wrong thing to do. Concentrate on that target and release and keep focused on that. And that part of it's called follow through. So when you're shooting, you have to have good follow through with instinctive shooting. It's kind of like shooting a shotgun on clay targets. They always teach to shoot and follow through. Well, your follow through as archery is release, but never taking your eye off of that target. Some people shoot with the arrow above their fingers, 3 fingers under. That puts it a little bit closer to the eye. It decreases the angle from your hand to where the arrow and your eye is. That angle, if you have a drastic angle, it'll throw your shot off a little bit. So the closer you can get it, the actual better it is. But I find it more comfortable to anchor in the corner of my mouth and fire like that. You follow that basic setup, the way you're standing, your stance, and you follow through and everything, and you'd be amazed at how accurate you are at shooting without sights. I'll tell you this little story. The first deer I ever shot was in an open field. It was weeds on all sides, and I had a tractor trail that I was walking down, and all I seen was antlers moving across. It was an 8-point buck. I thought, oh, it's 20 yards. I'm good. I was practiced up to 20 yards. He stepped out of that trail. I did exactly what I was supposed to do, released the arrow and drilled him right behind the rib cage. He had jumped and spun, and the arrow caught him right behind the rib cage and went up his side, and he ran about 50 yards, and I heard him crash. I paced it off. It was 37 yards. If I had my compound, I'd probably shot under it. I just wasn't used to range estimation in an open field like that. I was more used to giving targets at a set, like going to the archery range and using 10, 20, 30, 40 yards. Here I was out in the open field in the woods. I can get a little better range estimation by using the trees. Here it was just open flat, and I was off quite a bit. But my instinctive shooting technique kicked in, and the arrow went right where it's supposed to be. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the instinctive shooting method. My knees are slightly, not perpendicular to the target, just slightly off face. A natural, I don't want to put pressure on my neck to turn, just naturally looking at it. Kind of not quite over my shoulder, just find a natural position. And I'm going to put my arm up. Like I said, the elbow is not locked. My wrist is going to be locked. And I'm going to grasp the bow with my index finger and my thumb. Then I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I shoot with one finger, index finger above and 2 fingers below the nock. Pull back, anchor, and release. Shoot again. Get in my position, lock my wrist, anchor, and release. Another thing to take into consideration is when you release the string, if you're locked into your jaw, you release, you're not going to want to pluck the string. If you're plucking the string, it's going to cause you to throw your target or throw the arrow off target. So you're just releasing the string, and if you have to, pull back. Kind of like what we teach our students in shooting sports is wipe the ketchup off your face. So really you're not plucking, you're just releasing, and if you have to let loose, go ahead and let loose like that. Go ahead and shoot one more time. Get in my boxer stance, concentrate on my target, lock my wrist, pull up, anchor, and release. Just like that. Now another video I did was roving with traditional archery. And that's where you're going about out in the woods and you're picking out leaves or stumps or something to shoot out. And it gets you used to shooting unknown distances. At an archery range, you're shooting 10, 20, 30, 40 yards. Out in a hunting situation, you're not going to have that. They're going to come in at all different ranges. So by going out in the woods, you're used to being in the trees and limbs and shooting through limbs. I just pick a spot on a bank or a stump, and that's the target that I shoot at. Well, that's pretty well the gist of instinctive shooting. You're just going to have to do it and try it. There's all kinds of other types of shooting, traditional archery. All kinds. You can do the research on it. This is what works for me. This is what I use, and I've been successful at it. If you're even thinking about traditional archery, or you want to expand your archery experience, I would definitely opt for going into traditional archery. Traditional archery just opens up a whole lot more opportunities. You know, the average guy with a compound, you're not going to go out and you're not going to go rabbit hunting with a compound or squirrel hunting with a compound. Maybe there's some guys out there that do. That's great. But at least with traditional archery, you're more apt to do that. I hope you learned a little bit about traditional archery. And if you're thinking about trying traditional archery, I would highly encourage you to do it. So with that, I'll catch you out in the woods.